Governor Scott Walker fighting for time amongst a field of Republican candidates for president. Good evening. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Michelle Lee. The second GOP debate was not without drama or important moments for Wisconsin's governor. Political reporter Jessica Arp has been following the developments in our newsroom tonight. Jess?
Well, it looked early on tonight like Governor Walker had come in with gloves on and prepared to swing within the first 10 minutes, taking on Republican frontrunner Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump, we don't need an apprentice in the White House. We don't need an apprentice in the White House. We have one right now. He told us all the things we wanted to hear back in 2008. We don't know who you are or where you're going. We need someone who can actually get the job done. And you talked about business.
Well, in Wisconsin,
let me finish.
excuse me.
No, we talk about this.
In Wisconsin, you're losing $2.2 billion right now.
You're using
I would do so much better than that.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats.
The GOP field was asked by moderators about issues from immigration to business experience. One question was asked about Governor Walker's call to cancel a planned state visit from the Chinese president.
And I think this is an example of some who want to isolate us, actually, and not be engaged. We do need to be engaged with Russia. Doesn't mean we give them a free pass or China a free pass. But to be engaged means to continue to talk. We did throughout the Cold War, and it'd be a big mistake not to do it.
When it comes to China, why would we be giving an official state visit to a country that's been involved in a massive cyber attack against the United States? That's not just a visit. That's a 21-gun salute in the South Lawn of the White House. It just doesn't make any sense. If we're ever going to send a message to them, wouldn't this be the time?
Overall, the governor tried multiple times to interject into other issues, talked briefly about Planned Parenthood, but did not say whether, as some other candidates would, that he would support a government shutdown if funding for this organization is not revoked. Now, the governor was in the bottom of the pack as far as speaking time on stage, twice going more than a half an hour without saying anything, with Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, and Jeb Bush getting the most amount of speaking time tonight. Now, whether this is the type of debate performance that the governor needs to boost his falling poll numbers around the country remains to be seen. His campaign had said they'd hoped he would insert himself more this evening, but acknowledged prior to the debate it may be difficult. It seemed to be this evening.
All right, Jessica Arp reporting live for us tonight from the News Center. Jessica, thank you.
All right, our coverage of tonight's GOP debate continues. UW political science professor Ken Mayer joins us now with more insight on how tonight the candidates performed. Professor Mayer, good to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Always good to see you. Let's start with Governor Walker. Jess kind of alluded to it. It's really a battle for time here, and he's just not getting much, is he?
He was more aggressive and a little bit more in the attack than he was in the first debate, certainly more animated. But the fact that he was near the bottom, the only candidate who spoke less was Huckabee, and he went these long stretches without being a presence. That can't be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the energy he had. It seemed like he had some lines in his back pocket ready to go. Went at a little bit, you saw there with Donald Trump, but Trump continues to dominate the stage here.
Sure, he got the most time. He was at the focus of virtually every discussion. There was a point in the middle when the debate centered around foreign policy that he was absent, but he was far and away the candidate who spoke the most and was frequently animated and interjecting, and so he was there. He was a presence that the other candidates had to deal with.
And with Governor Walker, I guess he's just got to go with traditional means here of trying to elevate his campaign. These debates aren't doing him any favors when he's getting such little time.
Probably not, but the thing to keep in mind is that we have 16 candidates in the race, and the dynamics of a race with so many candidates are impossible to work out. It could be at some point Donald Trump gets bored, he decides to drop out, things shift, and if one or two or three candidates drop out, suddenly you have 15, 20, 25% of the electorate in play, and that could change things. But the fact that all of his numbers have been going in the wrong direction for at least a month now has to be concerning to the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned so many candidates. At some point, you figure we're going to see some pared down in some way, shape, or form. Who was the winner tonight, or who maybe raised their profile? Let's put it that way.
So clearly, Carly Fiorina, for a couple of reasons. One, she was not only an active presence in the debate, but this was her introduction to a large swath of the electorate. She was in the minor leagues last time with the debate that had 1/4 of the audience. This was her introduction to tens of millions of people. And I think she acquitted herself very well, both in terms of substance, the way she described herself, and she got in the zinger of the night. And I don't like to talk about it in those terms, but she was the candidate who was able to stand up to Trump and shut him down. And that's something I think that is noteworthy.
Yeah, she definitely stood out. Finally, just sticking with Governor Walker on the local front, he's not going anywhere. For people that think maybe he's going to drop out, what do you think? I mean,
I would suspect not, primarily because in his back pocket he has a super PAC. There's a lot of money there, and as long as he is able to sustain a campaign, to keep his staffers and things going like that, he will have money to be on the air. And so I would not expect him to drop out anytime soon. The campaign hasn't even really started yet, so it's a little bit early to making these kinds of prognostications.
Yeah, now it's kind of a battle to stay in that top 10, so you get to be in those main debates.
Clearly, there was a New York Times poll that came out a few days ago that had him dropping nationally to 2%. Yeah. So even in the averages, right now he's in about 9th place, and so he can't drop too much farther.
Interesting discussion. Good to have you here. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. On the Democratic side, let's look at the poll numbers. Bernie Sanders now doing better in the polls. He now tops Hillary Clinton by 7 points in the latest Monmouth University poll in New Hampshire. Experts say the Vermont senator is becoming popular with unaffiliated voters. Clinton still leads among registered Democrats. And News 3 wants to be your source for Decision 2016. We will continue to follow the Republican and Democratic candidates as well as their campaigns.